To be honest, this book isn't a romance and it isn't a thriller. This is a Lifetime movie script. Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review for Verity by Colleen Hoover. I've never actually read a Colleen Hoover book before, and I really wanted to give this book an honest try because it actually had a lot of reviews, and since it's a thriller, I was like, I'm not reading any of her romances, but a thriller, like, okay, I'll check it out. I have a lot of mixed feelings for this book. I gave this book 2.5 out of 5 stars, and I buddy read this with my best friend. Her YouTube channel is Mika August. I'll link it down below for you guys. And it's actually funny because we both read the book and we have the same feelings for it, but I gave it 2.5 stars. She gave it 3.5 stars. So it's very funny how we read the same book and have the same opinions, but our rating is just so different. I wanted to give this book 3 stars, but I really didn't at the same time. Let's just get into the review. Okay, so the plot is that it's about a girl who is a writer. Her name is Lauren, and the book actually begins in her witnessing a car accident, which I thought was actually really ironic. And she ends up getting this deal to write for one of her favorite authors, who actually was who got into a car accident, but these car accidents aren't linked to each other or anything. I just thought it was really interesting at the beginning of the book started off with one. And she goes to stay at their house because the author has a lot of notes and stuff to go through. So at first she was going to get a hotel room, but then she just ends up staying at their house because of so many notes. And while reading these notes, she comes across this manuscript and finds out these really terrible things that happen. This book was honestly so freaking wild, and I thought it was actually pretty decent. I just had a lot of problems with the characters and the romance and a little bit of the thriller aspect, but I feel like this book really had a lot of potential, and I honestly could see why people gave it 5 stars and 4 stars. But when I tell you, this book was literally the craziest thing I've ever read. A lot of people were trying to speculate oh, this didn't read like a romance or this didn't read like a thriller. Literally everyone said either or, and it's right. It didn't read like a romance and it didn't read like a thriller. It read like a Lifetime movie script. I'm literally not kidding you guys. This is a Lifetime movie. I grew up watching Lifetime movie with my grandma, my mom, and my sister. 3 generations watching Lifetime together. I kid you not. I know a Lifetime movie when I see one. So the romance in this book literally was trash, and it kind of came out of nowhere, but at the same time you kind of knew it was gonna happen. It wasn't suspicious or anything. It just kind of developed out of nowhere. They were just super nice to each other, and next thing you know they're kissing, and I'm just oh, okay. The romance was trash. They didn't develop a real stable relationship. They were on their way to it, but it felt like the relationship was I don't know, it didn't feel very developed. It didn't feel like it was finished, and she kind of just was just oh, I'm just gonna take this big chunk out and then write the romance. There was a big chunk of development in their relationship missing, in my opinion. And I also feel like the main character was very boring. She didn't really have a lot of interest besides writing, and that's all she cared about, which is fine, but homegirl, she didn't have any interest, and the only interesting thing about her was that she sleptwalked, which was probably brought up twice and then never brought up again, which I don't understand why it was. It was just very weird. There's this one scene where she wants a lock on the door, and so he finally gets a lock and she sleepwalks, I guess, but there's a lock on the door, and she ends up breaking her arm in her sleep, and it was just okay. But I promise you, after that, sleepwalking was never brought up again. So it's just what was the point of this being brought up if it wasn't going to be talked about anymore? I have never read a book where the male love interest was so boring. He was a nice guy and all, but he was so boring. Even when I read books with nice guys, soft boys, they're at least usually cute. Laszlo Strange from Strange to Dreamer, he's a cute soft boy, he's very nice and sweet, but he's adorable and you love him. In this book, I didn't care. I really didn't care. I was just oh, okay. Also, this book has a cheating trope, which I don't know if you know this, but I absolutely despise the cheating trope. And the wife is apparently brain dead. She's in a coma, and he's literally cheating on his wife while she's in the house. brain dead. Like, how are you okay with that as a husband, and how are you okay with that as someone who's staying in their house writing a book for this woman? Like, I don't understand that. Now let's get into the freaking wife and how crazy she was. Like I mentioned, she's in a coma and she's brain dead. Keep that in mind throughout this review. The book actually splits through plots of her manuscript, and the main character is like reading it, and we kind of read it as well. So, you know, you get chapters of the book, the manuscript, and then you get chapters of the main character's point of view, like after she read it, which I thought was actually pretty interesting. The beginning is kind of boring, I'm not gonna lie, well, at least boring to me. And there's a scene where it kind of like it starts to get like a little questionable. Like there's this one scene where like this book, like they meet each other, they fall in love, you know, blah blah blah, the whole shipping, and then she gets pregnant, and there's a scene where he falls asleep and she goes to the bathroom and tries to abort her kid with a coat hanger. And I just felt like that scene was very strange. First of all, that is very, very dangerous. Abortions aren't legal around there. Like, you can go and get an abortion, ma'am, if you want one. Like, your husband doesn't have to know about it. Clearly you're trying to abort the baby yourself. But I just felt like that scene was very weird, and like, I mean, there's some weird stuff that goes on in the book, but it was just like very strange. The kids are born, and she actually ends up getting pregnant again. She ends up faking her pregnancy because her husband loves her the most when she's pregnant, and she ends up getting pregnant like 2 weeks into the fake pregnancy. But it's like, why? I hate when women fake pregnancies, and I'm just like, okay, this woman is absolutely insane. She was basically jealous in her kids in a way that she kind of resented them because they were taking up their father's attention, which was her husband. And there's this one scene when she has 2 twins who are dead, by the way. Oh, I forgot to mention this earlier, but she has 2 twins who are dead by the time that Lowen comes in the story. And when the twins are born, she states how she smiles down at them, not because they were beautiful or anything like that, but because she felt like that was the thing that she needed to do. She has 2 twins and a son, and the first twin dies of asphyxiation at a sleepover, and the second twin dies drowning, which I will touch on more later. There was one thing about this story in general that rubbed me the wrong way, and it was the fact that one of the twins had Asperger's, and the mom like suspects that she was the one who killed her other daughter, who was like the favorite twin of hers, kind of, even though she really didn't care about them. Like, that was the one she kind of liked the most, and she just was like, oh, she like thought that the daughter was the one who killed the other twin. And I just felt like that was very like dangerous of Colleen Hoover to write, because like, why would you write that a character with Asperger's killed their sister? Like, that plays into that stereotype, and I feel like that was just very, very dangerous. And if I had Asperger's and I read that, I would feel like very hurt by that. Like, I honestly was hurt by it when I read it, because I'm like, why did she assume that it was a daughter with Asperger's? Like, that's just very weird of Colleen Hoover to write in this book. And she could have just had the daughter not have Asperger's, and could have just been, you know, just weird in general if she wanted to have it like that. Back to the twin who dies by drowning, it's literally the mom's fault. She convinces the husband to like go to like the grocery store or something, and she takes the kid out canoeing without life jackets and tips the boat over. She saves the son, but not the daughter with Asperger's. She literally lets her drown, and like the son is like, save her, save her, save her. And the mom's like, go in and call your dad. And the mom literally like whispers her name because she doesn't want to chance it. And then when the son comes back out after they call the dad, she's like screaming her name, and she's like, the daughter's name was Harper, so she's like, Harper, Harper, like, I'm coming to save you, Harper, like pretending that she actually cared. And I was like, what the heck? And also, it's very ironic because the twins died 6 months apart, but on the same day. And at this point, I could feel like the husband was starting to get suspicious. And also, I want to state that the mom was Verity. Her name is Verity, by the way. Oh my gosh, I'm such a terrible reviewer. I'm sorry, guys. It's been a long time since I reviewed a book, but the author's name is Verity, and you know, that's the title of the book. And when the first daughter dies, she's very like mad at the husband because he like was mad about it too long for her, and she just didn't like that. Also, I noticed that it was very weird that in the manuscript he cared so much about the daughters. Like, he was so torn up about them, but in the like in real time when he's with Lowen, like he doesn't seem too much to care. And like obviously he was probably like hurt about it, he just doesn't want to talk about it, but it was just very strange. Like he didn't seem, I don't know, it just seemed weird to me because he cared so much when they died, but then like I don't know, but that also could have been like a coping mechanism, I guess. But I just felt like that was weird to me. There's so many smutty scenes throughout the book, which you guys know I don't mind. I just felt like it was weird because it was an autobiography that the author was writing. So if I were to read a book like this, I would be like, girl, I don't care. Like, it was happening so much. Like, she would explain the stuff that they would do it so often. And if I read this in an autobiography, I wouldn't care. Like, when it's fiction, it's fine. But I'm not like shaming people who write about that, but I just feel like this, first of all, this autobiography wouldn't have been something that I cared about. I guess, well, the way it starts off, it wouldn't have been something I cared about. But once she like leads up to like her being crazy, it kind of would have been interesting. But if it was just a simple autobiography, it wouldn't have been interesting. It literally would have just been her and her husband getting on and falling in love and her becoming a famous author. And nobody cares about that. Sorry. So this is where it kind of starts to get creepy. There's one part where the husband, whose name is Jeremy, kisses the main character Lowen, and Lowen's like, oh my gosh, Verity, I just seen her walking. And he's like, what? She can't walk, she's brain dead, you idiot. And she's like, no, I seen it. And then he kind of like just brushes it off, and she like brushes it off, and it's like, maybe I didn't see that. But it's like, girl, if you see somebody walking, you see somebody walking. Like, so she kind of does like more creepy stuff. There's this one part where Verity's like watching TV and she's cooking dinner and Jeremy's upstairs, and then she notices that she hadn't heard the TV in a while and that the TV just goes mute, but there's nobody else downstairs but Lowen and Verity. So she like, you know, kind of gets creeped out. Here's where we get to the end. So this kind of gets to like the spoilery parts. So if this book actually does sound interesting to you and you want to read it, I would say like click off, and if you don't care, then stay for the tea. So the author Verity writes stuff in the villain perspective, which honestly I wouldn't mind reading. So someone suggests that she should also write an autobiography in a villain perspective. We found out in the end that Jeremy read the manuscript, and she writes a letter to Jeremy afterwards. Like, it's like, wow, the Lowen, like the first, when Lowen first starts to get there, because in a letter, like she says, like, she has your attention. So like when they first start to get there, like right before they're like fall in love with each other, I guess. So he reads the manuscript and he takes her feet together in her arms and he plants her in the car and basically tries to have her killed. But she fakes it the entire time, which doesn't make sense to me because like literally the doctors, like which like how do you fake being brain dead to doctors? Like they're doctors, they went to college for this. Like you can't fake that. You can't fake like responses, because there's a scene where like Lowen does something to Verity and like her body doesn't respond even though it literally should. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. Like that logic just doesn't make any sense. Like you can't fake being brain dead unless like she was brain dead half the time and then she just started to pretend like she wasn't. And that is why I say this movie is a Lifetime movie script, because I kid you not, that is probably something that's happened in a Lifetime movie. Do you know how many Lifetime movies I've seen where like the parents want to have a baby but they can't, so they invite a surrogate in, and then the surrogate ends up being crazy? Or like I've literally seen a movie where the parents like invite a nanny in and like the nanny ends up being crazy and tries to take over their family. But like this is like that but like swapped. Or like the mom ends up being crazy and gets jealous and like tries to kill the family. Like literally this is a Lifetime movie. Like I'm not kidding. And also in the end, like you know, like I said, Verity writes a letter, and it's like Verity like gets scared because she realizes that Jeremy read this manuscript before the letter was written. So I mean, it could have been like played off as like it was like miscommunication in a way, kind of where like he probably read the manuscript thinking that this is what she did, and then she probably like wrote this manuscript to make it seem like she was the villain, so that when she died, like he wouldn't get in trouble for it, and like she was saying like I was a good wife, and like I don't know. So he probably like didn't know that, and then thinking that she was this terrible wife to his kids, so he like planned to have her killed. But that just doesn't make any sense to me. And Lowen figures this out, and it's like she cares for a little bit in the beginning, and then suddenly she just stops caring. She's like, oh, I don't care anymore. And they actually kill her in the end. They make her throw up and they plug her nose. So now I know how to murder a person and make it look like they died. But it was just like, it was weird. They really killed her in the end, and it was like, and then they like never talked about it again, and it was just like weird. And like Lowen literally could be living with a killer and she doesn't even freaking care. Like she literally was just like, oh well. And she eats the evidence. Like she literally ate the evidence. She ate the paper. And I'm like, girl, I would never do that for any man. I'm sorry. First of all, let's start there. I actually do like the ending and how you don't really know what happens and it's kind of just up to you. Literally, me and Mika were on the phone on FaceTime reading this together at like 5 a.m. and we were going back and forth on like our theories and we were like evidence. I kind of think that Verity was the one who was like crazy, and Mika's kind of on the side that it was kind of like it was kind of like Jeremy or like a misunderstanding. So we're literally going back and forth like evidence. Like there's this one scene where the son literally, like, Lowen asks him a question because it kind of hints at like his mom. Throughout the book he kind of hints that his mom is like talking to him, and there's this one scene where Lowen asked him, she was like, so what happened at the canoe? And he was like, mommy says I shouldn't talk about that. And he's like, mommy told you that? He literally bites down on a knife and like starts bleeding. And what other reason would that be to happen if the mom was like, we can't talk about that night? Like, you know, like I think that it was the mom. Like I think that it wasn't like for her to paint herself as a villain. I think she was really crazy. I think she was really crazy, and it shows because she pretends to freaking be brain dead and in a coma for like a very long time. But Mika's like, oh no, like I think it's like the husband, and like we keep going like back and forth with our evidence. So I kind of do like how like there's no true answer and it's kind of just up to the reader. It's kind of like an open-ended plot. I mean, it's kind of like an open-ended ending, but at the same time it's not. And I did enjoy that. Like that was one of the best like plot twists I've read. Not plot twist, but like that was like a good ending. The plot twist wasn't good, like no, but I liked the ending and how it was kind of up to the reader. Like I thought that was really, really interesting because it kind of just leaves you shook because you don't know what happens. And also another thing I like is how the book ends in the end. Like what are we, in 5th grade? That's it for this review. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've read it. Sorry this review was kind of like all over the place and trash. I haven't done a rant review in so freaking long. And so I want to do more rant reviews for this year. Also want to say I have no problem with Colleen Hoover. I've never read a Colleen Hoover book before. This is my first Colleen Hoover book ever, and I just wanted to talk about it. It wasn't a bad book at all. I just rate very harshly, and I actually didn't like it. Wasn't really a problematic book. Yeah, it had its problematic parts, like the daughter having Asperger's and her mom suspecting that she was the killer, and it kind of like alludes to she suspected she killed her sister because she had Asperger's, like, you know. But I feel like other than that, like, it wasn't as problematic as all her other books are, and like how people literally have rant reviews of all of her other books. But I want to do more rant reviews this year. I know a lot of people don't like them. I personally love making them. It's really the only time I get to critique writing because I'm a very picky reader. I don't really I'm not like really a critical reader though. I'm just picky, and so this is like the only time I actually get to like talk about things I don't like. There are books I give 3 stars that I don't like, that I just don't care about, and then I just go on about my day. Then there are books that I absolutely hate and I want to talk about. Like I don't mind hate reading things. Like reading this book was so fun. Like there was parts that like were funny to me, and like me and Mika were like giggling, and it was just fun to read a book and just not really have to think about it, you know, and just to read. And I mean, of course I have so many books that are like my favorites that I love and enjoy reading, but it's just fun to like sit down and just read something. And you know, I don't know how to explain it, but I would never like personally like try to hurt these authors, and it's just to review them. And there are a lot of books out here that are problematic and books that should not have been published, that were published anyways. But yeah, let me know if you want me to like read a book that you think I won't like, and I will, and I'll do a review on it because I miss rant reviews, and I want to do more for 2020 because honestly in 2019 I probably did like 3. And yeah, so let me know what books you want me to read down below that you think that I won't like. A lot of you guys know my taste very well. So yeah, that is it for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.